I thought we go mute when
rookie. Well, maybe. I don't even know. I think we don't mute. If people heard, that's fine. We hear it here. If anything, the people hear it on the audio version. Check it out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
Apparently, on Apple Podcasts, this won't drop until Wednesday.
I'm gonna fix that. In any case, we're still talking San Diego FC. Thank you for everybody who's hung on again. We want to hear your thoughts throughout all of this because, as we mentioned, Darnay was out there. We were out there. One of a couple of media outlets out at the expansion draft at 18 Threads, which is the first opportunity to really see a bulk of the San Diego FC players / depth / bench that would potentially come over to San Diego. So let's talk about it. This was last Wednesday at the 18 Threads guess merch store. And so there were a lot of just spitballing. There was a lot of spitballing when it comes to just who, what, this, that, not even locally, not even Southern Cal, just nationwide. Like I was paying attention to some of the some of the biggest names out there. Tom Bogert, like he openly admitted, was like, well, anything can happen, which is true. The official MLS page also had like, this is who they should be looking at. Got absolutely nobody that was on that list. But in any case,
expansion drafts are weird. Any draft is weird. Like if you've played fantasy football, if you've like done it in the video game, it's just you never know what's gonna happen. And it seems like San Diego FC has a very clear vision, and they're only gonna select players that fit that specific vision, or eventually trade players, get those international roster spots. And I mean, it was interesting. What do you think, Chiva?
I mean, just seeing this picture, right, of SDFC dropping their roster. This is 13 players. They have 14 right now with the goalkeeper, Jacob Jackson, that was also added on. So you finally, Tony, you mentioned it earlier, you no longer forfeit a match. You have over 13 players. Yeah. That's all you need to be able to play the game. At first glance, you see this list and you're like, who are these guys? Like the basic soccer fan recognizes maybe two of these names, and that's Patty McNair and Chucky Lozano.
Yes.
And those are like, if you're a pretty decent soccer nerd, I mean, I didn't know who Imbarsen was. Alex Mighton, he's still 22. Like, I don't know who Jeppe was. Like, they're playing in Norway, yes, it's Europe, but you're not really paying attention unless it's one of the top 5 leagues. You're not really paying attention to that. So the roster on its own is very interesting because it's really how Tyler Heaps and Mikey Varas really want to shape it, which is with their play style of the right to dream model, where it's very fast paced. They're going to play that counterattack. They're going to play on those mistakes. So they have a lot of pacey players here, and we're going to kind of deep dive a little bit on those new signings, Tony, but it's shaping up not in the way that I feel like a lot of fans wanted it, but
oh no,
get ready, guys. This doesn't mean that it's going. It doesn't mean. I hope it's not a total disaster, but there are potential with a lot of these players.
I've outside of it being closer than the actual date being closer to game time, and the mechanic of having players on your team is actually happening now. I don't think that anybody that I spoke to and actually had this discussion with shared that they are more excited about San Diego FC and its players and its play style and getting started than they were before the expansion draft. Outside of just saying like, we have more players. Well, are you familiar with these players? Like what? And that's just obviously if you are 100% like, I got another mic. Let's make it happen. I'll get you some hot coffee in this garage. But
we didn't get any.
We didn't get any. It was too close.
I'm just kidding.
Next time.
Yeah, no.
Would you have taken the coffee?
No, it's too late.
I know. I don't either.
We only drink Recover here in the Two Balls in the Mic studios.
Talk about Recover. This is time to recover because it's been a long weekend.
It got the endorsement from my grandma. I brought the ones that Tony gave me, and I was like, she was eating breakfast. I was like, you want to try it? She was like, okay. She was like, she freaking took my Recover. She drank the whole thing.
Mijo?
Así lo dijo. And I was like, She took my drink. I was kind of offended, but it's okay. It's that good. Your grandma will steal it from you.
Absolutely.
You're telling me you took it back from your grandma?
I
Wow.
didn't. I
Hey,
didn't.
That's
He
so
took it.
rude.
I let her have it, but I was kind of like,
Ah.
dang, I was looking forward to having this.
If you want to throw that picture up once again, Shiva. So
Yeah.
we were talking about the expansion draft and the players that were actually taken in this. So the first pick 1 through 3 were made bang 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 out the gate, right? It was a 30-minute show. From what I understood and what was told by some sources at the actual event, things were moving last minute. Very last minute. We spoke to somebody who had just left the global headquarters because things were done last minute.
Yeah.
And the email had to be sent. So with that, before the draft, the goalkeeper Dos Santos, we have a Dos Santos, not Giovanni,
Not CJ Fadri.
not CJ Fadri, but CJ Dos Santos was named for the goalkeeping position along with then Duran Ferri. In this graphic, you don't also see a third goalkeeper selected, San Diego native Jacob Jackson. He was selected later on in the first stage of the 2024 MLS re-entry draft, and which is another
Yeah, that one was on Friday. So there's 3 goalkeepers now for San Diego FC. You have Duran Ferri, Coronado kid, 18 years old, right now playing with the academy at FC Northland. You have now CJ Dos Santos, 24-year-old, very brief MLS experience. I think he had 1 cap with Inter Miami, and I think he played MLS Next as well, a couple matches. You have Jacob Jackson, that's San Diego native as well, but very limited MLS experience, more MLS Next experience as well. So you have to assume, is there going to be a veteran goalkeeper that they're going to get for that starting position? Is one of these 3 players going to be the starting goalkeeper? It may not be Duran. Tony, you're still optimistic, and you're still saying that Duran is going to be the starter for the home opener.
I think at the very least we have an interesting goalkeeper battle, which is fun to see. Whether it be for the bench spot for second string or for that starting spot, it's fun when you have like positional battles like this, and we won't really get to see that. A lot of it's probably going to be in these preseason games and in these like closed door practices. But when you have like 3 young players like this, I think SDFC is at least thinking to themselves, these guys are going to have to play it out on the pitch, see who earns that final spot, which can be fun.
And just be ready if one of these younger goalkeepers, Tony, 24 is still young for a goalkeeper, super young. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn off those mistakes. If SDFC is ready for that, then so be it. Just know the goalkeeper will be making a lot of mistakes. And that's how you learn. I mean, you have young goalkeepers in Liga MX, like Chivas have Tala Rangel, who's I believe like 24, 25 as well, but he's killing it. Like he's a starting goalkeeper. There are those teams that find a hidden gem in goalkeepers, and this could potentially be one of those players. So maybe Tyler Heaps and all the scouts and everything see something in one of these goalkeepers that nobody else sees. So who knows? Maybe this is one of their starters. Maybe they get a veteran player just in case that can be the starter, and this younger goalkeepers can learn under. But those are the goalkeepers that SDFC has as of now.
Whatever happened to those Memo Ochoa rumors? Do you remember that? Like when the team first became 100%. A thing, that was like such a big deal for everyone.
He started having very low lights in his team, and he's not no highlights.
He still loves San Diego. Like let's not he vacations here with his family. Like that's just the thing that he does.
Village.
He loves Seaport Village. He loves
going to get remodeled too.
He loves going to there's going to be a whole Space Needle.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say that actually.
I've seen those pictures. I've seen those.
Breaking news, not soccer
That's
related.
Not breaking. I think I've seen a rendering, which you
didn't know. There's a big resort at J Street Marina in Chula Vista. So
I've seen that too.
Rendering.
Other players that San Diego FC have selected. I mean, let's dive in on these players. I mean, who do you guys want to talk about first? We have Chris McVeigh, who Tony, you got to talk to a little bit as well. But Who do you guys want to talk about first?
Let's do a little bit of order of operations here. So it was actually announced the first selection was Heine Giklink Bruseth, a Norwegian player, a young lad, had time in Orlando, but they had a playoff run, so he didn't see a lot of minutes here in the MLS so far this last season. So speaking of scouts, right? The Norwegian actually plays over in Scandinavia, and because Right to Dream has that network of scouts over in Norway, which is pretty much right next to it, they are privy to such players like this. He is part of this system where there's a Scandinavian style of play. And actually, Chris McVeigh was actually the one to actually point that out. And when I interviewed him, he's like, "Yeah, no, like there's this Scandinavian way of play." So like, hey, what type is that? This is the type of player that has grown up with that. Speaking of the Right to Dream Academy, that's what they have to adapt to. We're going to see a lot more FC Norseland influence. A lot more FC Norseland influence in the first team, as opposed to maybe Ghana's Right to Dream or Egypt's Right to Dream come through that. I did also hear that the Milan Orlowski thing might not be happening.
What?
Yeah.
Interesting.
At least
Hit
for
the
right
button,
now.
hit the button.
That one?
I
Okay.
like that.
Yeah, I like
look,
it too.
this is the highlight that I could find from this player of a goal that they scored in the team that he was playing as well. So, I mean, he's a center midfielder. He's good on the ball. He has a good shot as well. But, I mean, you see this first shot with the lefty, bottom right corner. So, you know, he's a player that is only 20 years old. He is definitely bound to also learn. But I mean, this is kind of like the bread and butter that Tyler Heaps wants in this team. He wants those hidden gems. Like I keep saying, like I'm gonna reference that a lot, but he's only 20.
Mhm.
Like that potential with this player in 5-6 years, this could be the one player that goes from SDFC over to the Premier League. Like you don't know the potential that these players have, but I mean, again, he's a very not defensive, but center midfielder where he's gonna be your box to box midfielder.
He is, and we can get to it now or a little bit later, but essentially, with everything still in flux, right? Again, going back to CJ Dos Santos being announced before the draft, Dos Santos was actually planned to be one of the 5 players to be selected in the expansion draft. So that's what I'm saying. Like moves were being made up to like 15, 20, 30, like just minutes before the actual decision to draft these players were made and finalized. But that's something that's kind of up in the air, right? And then you now have again the re-entry draft. There's a couple levels into that. The first level already happened, where it's essentially like a waiver wire. If you're familiar with the NFL, it's just a pool of players that want to remain in the MLS that are free agents. They can go ahead and say, "Hey, re-enter me into this league. I don't want to leave." With that. The second player was then selected for SDFC, and this was Hamadi Diop, another young player with MLS experience over in Charlotte, I believe. And
I mean, he was the number 1 pick for them in the 2023 Super Draft. So
correct.
Played in Clemson, I believe. He was the captain there. He's a solid center back, as good as it gets. He is definitely a player that is going to be more of a rotation. I don't think he will be starting over another player that we're going to talk about, who is Andres Reyes and Patty McNair, who potentially will be that center back pairing, unless McVay
we'll get to Reyes.
Also plays in that, and they play with the 3 center back line. But
Mhm.
Diop is definitely another one of those players that has potential, right? He's only 22 years old. He's still very young. He has MLS experience already. He has that college background with Clemson, who's one of the top colleges when it comes to soccer as well. So definitely very well. He can definitely shoot the ball. He was the penalty taker at Clemson. There he shot free kicks as well for Clemson. So he has a really good left foot for him to be a center back. So I mean, I'm pretty sure that's kind of like some of those things that they're definitely looking at when it comes to picking out these players. Like, who can we have that could potentially surprise a team when it comes to a set piece play?
Yeah.
When it comes to a penalty shootout or something like that. So having him is definitely a big win for San Diego FC, especially like Tyler Heaps has said, they're trying to build something for the future as well. They're not just trying, yes, they want to compete right now, but they're also building something for the next couple of years.
And it's again this very ambitious project. A little bit to backtrack, right? I was going to say that because moves are happening like really quickly. We saw it also on the San Diego Wave side of negotiations. We'll get to San Diego Wave and some of their roster moves here in a bit as well. Is that ¿cómo se llama? Bruseth is going to be that box-to-box midfielder, which is kind of like that replacement / potential player instead of Guti Gutierrez.
Yeah. So I mean, sources pretty much
here we go.
indicated with that. That was
Look at
going
that.
to be a big signing for San Diego FC. The alluded best friend of Chucky Lozano coming back to play with him once again. To our understandings, Chivas have their players at a very high price tag, which is completely understandable since when Chivas tend to get players from other teams, they have to sell them at a higher price point as well. To our knowledge, that's no longer happening.
Yeah.
Because of that price tag, especially just based on the type of player that you have from Guti Gutierrez, you have kind of like that same quality on a younger Brucev.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it would have been a plus. It would have been a people pleaser signing as well, having that friendship back on the field. But if the price isn't right, and that's something Tyler Heaps has mentioned over and over, there's negotiations going to this, and if the price isn't right, they're not going to just pretty much go all out on a player that they don't really want. So
Which
that's
can
no
be
longer
appreciated
happening. I don't
for
think.
right now.
I don't think they'll be getting any players from Chivas.
It's not trending that way right now.
Because I mean, there was potential of Guti Gutierrez, Victor Guzman, who's also played with Chuck Lozano. So I don't think that's gonna happen anymore.
Yeah.
But
We don't pay attention to Liga MX anymore.
we don't pay
We don't.
attention to Liga MX
That's-
anymore.
that's
That
it.
league is non-existent.
Absolutely.
MLS, puro MLS.
Yeah, let's go. Then the third selection was Jasper Lofelsen, and again, some MLS experience here. Someone who has had success individually, just being involved in the league, and just rounding out just the experience that's needed in order to go ahead and start 2025 for San Diego FC on the right foot, because you are going to need the combination of experience in the MLS and just people who you're going to go ahead and mold. And I think a good way, I think George said it here earlier, is that they might be young players, but it's easier to break any bad habits and show them this system. And I think that's a really good point, right? Like you can go ahead and show a 20-year-old Tomas Angel, who, I mean, if you look at some of the highlights that he's provided, like, those are exciting. The 20-year-old Colombian, also part of San Diego FC. But again, like, you can break those bad habits. You can really kind of instill that DNA of the right to dream style of play, and really have something cool to work with. And I think that's the key right here. People who are watching San Diego FC will have to temper those expectations. And I've even heard Coach Mikey Varas say a little bit more conservatively, like, hey, like, if we make playoffs, like, we should be happy. We should be happy for competing or making playoffs in the first year. And I think that's a good standard to kind of keep. Whatever's going to happen with Leagues Cup, quien sabe. News came out where if Liga MX, again, not paying attention, but may or may not just have a coup. But nobody seems to be enjoying Leagues Cup.
Yeah, look, with Jasper, you're getting essentially a player that reminds me a lot of, like, not comparing the level, but reminds me a lot of Philip Lahm back in the Bayern Munich days, right? Where he can play at the right back, and then Pep Guardiola comes in and, hey, now you're my new center defensive mid. So I think a lot of the things that SDFC is doing is they're getting players that can definitely play in different positions, and that's definitely a plus. But I think for the most part, he plays a lot in that fullback position, kind of like center defensive mid role as well. He has good delivery. He is able to play as a center mid. He has a good shot as well. I think something that he thrives on, just seeing a couple video compilations of him, is those through balls.
Yeah.
I think he's definitely able to see what's possible behind the back line, and if that's something that could definitely be a weapon, I do think he's potentially going to be a starter for San Diego FC as of now. I mean, there's only 14 players, but I think he is a player that could potentially become a starter. And I mean, he knows how to get a tight spots as well. There's a lot of times where he's gonna get surrounded by two players, and he's able to find the player or get out of that spot and then get rid of the ball. So that's definitely a plus of a player that you want in that center midfielder or in the fullback position. So definitely a good player to have, especially getting him in the expansion draft.
If you start kind of looking at these patterns of who San Diego FC is getting, one, multi tool players that can play, like you said, in multiple positions, players who can get out of tight spaces with individual skill, or just be able to play collectively and do the smart play in order to go ahead and play on a counterattack right there. From what I do believe it's going to be a little bit more of a classic 4-3-3 formation with Mikey Varas. Where that midfield is gonna be is depending again on a lot of who's available that day. But if there's one thing that's for sure, SDFC currently having a bunch of midfielders. I think their midfield right now is going to be filled out with one, maybe two more just top tier MLS caliber players. But for right now, I think that depth wise, you're going to be doing okay. You're going to rely a lot on Yepes Sverskov in that 6 role to really set the tone, set the pace, set the tempo of the way SDFC plays, and then really rely on the talent and the youth and the dynamic play of younger players to really put that together. And so just certain patterns here that you're starting to see. And again, like it's an exciting style of play, it seems right now. But we'll see what that chemistry starts looking like, right? Does Chucky Lozano vibe with that style of play? Where you can put a put a Ferrari in a race with I don't know what's another
McLaren.
With the McLaren, and I think we're talking like, well, it's more like a Honda, a fast Honda, a Prelude, a Ford. An Escort, a really fast Ford Escort.
Look, I mean, on paper, yes, some of these players can definitely play in that midfield, but San Diego FC labeled them and listed them as defenders. My theory here is that maybe Mikey Varas surprises with a 3 center back defensive line with fullbacks. Those fullbacks definitely being what's the name? We're just talking about Jasper. Being one of those fullbacks, they're probably going to get someone. Jeppe definitely one of those center defensive midfielders. With Bruce also on that midfield, unless they pick up someone else, obviously. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see a 3-man center back line with Patty McNair, McVeigh, who we're going to talk about as well right now, and Andres Reyes as well, who we're also going to talk about. Those are 2 solid, experienced MLS players that they also picked up.
Yeah, and I think when you think about like modern soccer and you talk about like just having a bunch of midfielders, that is kind of what we see at a lot of levels nowadays, where it's just they have to be skilled on the ball and making those important passes and kind of being able to play like wherever they are needed. And when you're building a team like that, especially with young players, if you're able to like teach them to play that way well, it ends up looking like really beautiful soccer. But when it does not work well, it looks like so bad. Like we've been seeing that with City lately. Like they just can't pass the ball anymore. And it's San Diego FC, you got to hope that they can kind of find that balance.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. I mean, let's dive in on McVeigh, right? He's a player that got announced as well during the week. He's a center back that can sometimes play on the fullback position as well. So he's a player that can also shoot. So a lot of their center backs have a cannon of a leg. So that helps out a lot as well. He also has great vision down the field. Tony, you were alluding to it. Something similar that these players have is that vision down the field. Just playing the ball down the field, just getting those through balls over, playing that quick counter-attacking style as well. So that's something that he's going to be able to provide. He has great positioning as a center back. He's able to cut in plays like we see here. Just in general, I think he's a very solid center back to have in the MLS. Last season, he played with Inter Miami. He got a couple starts. It helps when you are surrounded by worldwide talent like Jordi Alba, Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez, Sergio Busquets.
Not bad. Yeah.
Like training with those players, you just get better. It happened to Chicharito when he went to Real Madrid. Everyone in Mexico saw how much better he got at soccer. And that's just due to training with world-class players. So this is also definitely a good pickup for San Diego FC. He's a solid center back. So again, this is why I'm thinking they're going to have a 3 center back line.
Yeah, and I know he was with DC United, and this is more of a comprehensive look at just what type of player he is, right? Like, show me what the highlights are. Sure, like we were talking about it. Are we going to look for lowlights? Well, no, not really, because those will come. Don't worry, there'll be plenty. We'll find out what the flaws are in the current iterations, because sometimes, you know what, speed just becomes a factor right there. Is something that he it showcases a lot, is that burst of speed from the back line and breaking the lines and moving into the midfield and starting the attack. Like I said, like you said, actually, very good at reading a play and very athletic as a center back and pretty pacey. The center back position in the MLS is actually something that is pretty, you know, pretty new, or in terms of modern center backs, with a very pacey center back. Sometimes you don't have to be the best defender; you just have to get to the ball, and that's a lot of MLS defending. But it's also an added bonus here. You know, he prefers the left leg, and that's good to be able to move in order to the left leg, right? If you have somebody in the center back position, and for whatever reason you need to offload them over into the wing, you can go ahead and do that. If you need them more of a right wing back, just send them up. You start with a 4-3-3 formation. You go ahead and now switch in transition to a 3-5-2, load up that midfield, and then you start playing that beautiful version of soccer that we're talking about. And Right to Dream is potentially going to have. Yeah, it's going to be high, fast paced, but it doesn't mean it's going to be pelotazo. It doesn't mean it's going to be just lob it ball and just hope, you know, in Barcen or whoever is up there
There's a bunch of
can go ahead and get the ball. No, this team is going to try to play very fundamentally on the ground and play at a fast pace, but ultimately try to keep control of that ball. And that's how they're going to dictate their play. If they go this route, then I think it's pretty standard, but with a different outlook in terms of what can be brought, this 2.0 version versus the MLS, right? Like, if you play this style in Europe, it's not like they haven't seen it in Europe. It's not like it's totally revolutionary. It's more of a total football. It's like a total football 2.0, to just kind of look at and give an idea of what Johan Cruyff did back in Barcelona, and just that idea of, you know what, the ball is in play. You just go ahead and make sure that you have control of that ball. You control and dictate the pace of this. And if you are able to go ahead and change that pace and on a dime and really just turn it on, then that's to your benefit, because the opponent, regardless or not, is going to have a hard time keeping up on the other side. So again, looking at McVay as somebody who's a multi-tool there at the same time is good in terms of what this team is postulating for. Like, these are positives, guys. SDFC positives. Mark them. No, we speak positively. I like what I see from that. If I'm a goalkeeper, which I am.
I mean, allegedly, I haven't seen you play.
Not
in
an MLS.
It's been a while. Well, who knows? I'm still. Hey, if I train,
tranquilo, eh?
Hey,
Duran,
excuse you. All right, 100 pounds ago, I thought the same thing. Now I know. Now I know.
Gosh,
if I just train a little bit.
What are you thinking, Abe? Do you feel like this fast-paced environment or play style that SDFC was probably alluding to playing? Do you think it can be successful in the MLS?
I think it can, yeah, especially with just how much they're talking about this system and style, and if you're truly committed to that and like willing to have some bad games, maybe even like a couple bad seasons where you're building and building, then yes, this can work. But at the same time, like we saw it, even if you compare it to like the NWSL, where Casey Stoney built a style, it worked, and then all of a sudden it just crashed and everyone figured it out and it just was not fun to watch. She got fired. And then Donovan tries to instill like a style that's attacking, high pace, controlling the ball, having insane amounts of possession, and that didn't work. And even with the Loyal, I think that last year of the Loyal, we saw like the best version of a style, of a structure. And then at the end of the season, it all just kind of peters out. So you'd never really know in soccer, but I think this is probably the right move right now, just building a system and having this thing that can last for a long period of time.
Yeah. And I mean, just going back, following McVay, you have Andres Reyes, who was probably one of the.
I like that signing.
That one is
that was
huge.
Probably the biggest signing because of the Andres Reyes signings. I feel like that was a big reason of those two players getting traded in the expansion draft to get more Gam and Tam available into your team, into your what's it called? Your armory.
You're loading up the coffers. So what you're saying is that SDFC selected St. Louis City SC midfielder Jose Kojima during the expansion draft and traded him over to DC United in exchange for $400,000 in 2025 GAM. SDFC then also selected New York City FC forward Thiago Andrade and traded him to Toronto in exchange for club's natural first-round pick. I believe that's the 9th pick overall in the MLS Super Draft, and up to $250,000 in conditional if certain performance metrics are met.
I wonder what those kind of metrics are. Is it like if he scores enough, if he plays enough minutes? Like, you think like just they're hoping like
Toronto's hoping sell on clauses, trade on clauses.
Yeah,
it's a if you end up trading this player in 2 years, you give us 500,000 GAM.
Yeah, my favorite. No, I really like that. Yeah. When I see it in soccer, like I remember Gareth Bale, that huge transfer into Real Madrid had like a huge trickle down effect for Southampton.
Oh yeah.
Man, and just the way that works. But those were the picks here in the expansion draft, and then obviously then the announcement. I do believe. I think it was Darnay who asked Coach Mikey Varas, hey, so what about Andre? Again, I was going to call him Silva.
Andres Reyes.
Andre Reyes. What about Reyes? And he's like, well, we don't speak about players we don't have yet, because at that moment he was not officially official. It was a boogie bomb
announced the day after
from Tom Bogert, who had that scoop. But yeah, so Andres Reyes, Colombian national, is selected and going to be that rock in the center back lineup here for San Diego FC. And I think that's, aside from Chucky Lozano, just the biggest get so far.
Yeah, I mean, he's coming from New York Red Bulls, who just played in the final. He didn't see minutes on that final, but he did score.
Due to illness.
Yeah, due to illness. But, I mean, he did score in the playoffs as well. He's good on the air. They're getting pacey center backs, which, I mean, it's crucial in the modern game now. So, I mean, again, like, he's one of your highest profile players that you've gotten over the last couple days. So he has the experience. He's only 25. So, I mean, again, that back line is looking pretty secured already under Patty McNair's leadership. Let's not forget, Patty McNair is also in this team in that defensive back line. So, that have a good shot, that have a good long ball as well. So I think SDFC is definitely starting off from that back line and then moving up. That next DP player that they should be getting is going to be an offensive player. So whether it's Kevin De Bruyne, whether it's another
offensive like a Carlton,
no offense. Is there like
no
just
offensive
attacking? Can we just maybe attacking?
Yes, an attacking
go back
player.
To my Gam and Tam.
But
killing
yes, that is definitely
offensive
correct.
player was the one that sat here that you invited on the podcast.
I did not invite.
You interviewed.
I think that changed the course of soccer in San Diego.
Maybe chase the course of the election.
You know what?
Abe, we don't get political here, Abe. Come on now.
Depending on which one you're talking about. The Reyes trade seems sus maybe to get rid of. They got rid of him because he didn't want to play in the final. Either way, San Diego does get a really good player here for the MLS to start the season. That is a solid back player who's going to be your rock. You know, when you have Patty McNair, who's also really good on the ball, moving forward with the ball and moving into that midfield, you're going to need somebody who stays back. And if not, somebody who's able to track back, a strong defender who isn't a stranger to getting down and dirty and will just tear off your leg if you let him. Just stay out of his way. That's the type of ring general in a way, the defensive general that you have with Andres Reyes. And so I think, this defense is shaping up to be solid in terms of MLS. Yeah. The next attacking player is slated to be potentially a DP on the right wing. And so that's kind of where San Diego FC are getting a whiff right now, because again, they can. The international transfer window is coming up. That's coming up in January. And so literally everybody and anybody is within the rules and bounds up for grabs for San Diego FC.
Yeah, and I mean, they did get another offensive player with Thomas Angel, right, from LAFC. A young player, 21 years old. this guy, if you watch him play, he's electric. He played for Phoenix Rising in the US as well. He has a very good left foot. He's that player that va a hacer sombreritos. He's going to be taking on players one-on-one if he gets the chance to start. So he's very pacey. He likes to take the shot when he has the shot. So I think he's also a good pickup to have. He's only 21 years old. So again, you're getting some of those younger players to try to shape up for the future. Don't look at my notes, Abe. Gosh. Why are you picking at my notes?
I was trying.
Get your own notebook, man.
What do you think about this? This is a different gear for us right now. Like I love this. Like we're finally talking soccer.
Yeah,
dude.
we're not just.
I'm tired of talking Chrome. I'm tired
we're
of
not
talking
just
community.
here to
Like
talk smack.
I love
There's
the
actual
community.
soccer
Like,
to talk
fine.
about now.
I know,
Babe.
I'm like so surprised. Chivas just like rolling off stuff that I've like never heard him talk about before. I'm like
Hey,
so
screw you.
impressed.
There hasn't
I'm
been
impressed.
soccer for a while.
I'm impressed. I know you miss it. I miss it too, and it's just like I miss this version of Chivas.
Sorry, I was tired of talking about Kristen Westphal just fucking up at the right back position, who's no longer with Wave, but we're gonna be talking about that later today.
This is fun. This is fun. I love it. And your handwriting's good. That's really what I was
My
looking at.
handwriting
Being
is
honest.
fucking terrible. By the way, the average age for San Diego FC right now is 25 years old. That's still very young. It's not the youngest in the MLS.
Did the math. He actually fucking did the math.
It's not the youngest. The youngest is
math.
New York City FC. They have their average at 23 years old.
Who is this guy?
Yeah, the average for San Diego FC right now is 24.7. So 25 years old.
So 24. Wait, 0.7 in 12 months. What is that? Like 24 years and
14 players. So
okay.
Yeah,
we'll get more players. They'll get more players.
They have to. They have to get a
older.
max of 18 up to 20 players. So whatever the TAM allows them. Yeah, so
yeah, no, their average will go up age wise, especially if they add a certain 32-year-old right winger. Which I mean, if that's what they want, that's what they want.
You
who
really
could
think
that right
that's gonna
winger
happen?
be?
Do I really think what I just typed in and Googled is gonna happen? I don't know. Let the people think.
Who do you? Sorry, I missed it. Who did you Google?
Oh
Don't worry
man,
about
you gotta
it.
go back. You gotta go back.
Look at the notes.
Who could
Is that
that?
in your notes?
Who could that right winger DP be? I don't know, Cisco. Who do you want it to be?
I'm just gonna look at the history.
Oh shit.
Like we have the same fucking shit. Like
You guys can just look at each other's Google history.
we're on the
It's
same,
all the same
Google
company.
browser.
San Diego.Football. Check out the website, sandiego.football.com, not .com. That's San Diego.Football at all times. San Diego.Football.
No, I can't. Oh, you really? It's not gonna be bad.
Hey.
Come on.
Hey.
I mean, maybe. Maybe.
That's what I'm saying. Let us know who you guys want.
Why can't you say it?
At the end of the day.
Why won't you say it?
I don't know. Why won't you say it?
Mo Salah?
Oh,
He's available.
I think when it does seem like a right wing would be the next option, considering that Chucky plays on the left.
Mhm.
So that could happen, but also that would be insane.
I mean, he did just say he played his last game at
Anfield.
what stadium? No, not Anfield. That's his stadium, but potentially his last game. Who did they play recently? I think it was a couple weeks ago, and he said this could potentially be my last game here.
Yeah.
I no longer follow this other
So you just forget what
small
Old
leagues. So
Trafford?
yeah. So I mean, it's just it's all about Snapdragon. Come on,
Snapdaddy.
Snapdragon, who is in correlation.
Isn't
Manchester
Mo
United,
very
so-
good friends with the owner? I mean, again, I'll roll the clip.
Was that not the first question that you asked
Mr. Mansour, Mo Salah?
Uh,
Mo Salah.
while his handler's trying to like pull him away? He
Yeah.
was
Come
just
on,
like, wait,
dude.
let me come
Mr.
back.
Mansour definitely gave Mo Salah allowance when he was a kid. So
Goodison's a good shout. But yeah, again, everything and anything is on the table. We did speak with Coach Mikey Varas at the expansion draft about his roster construction. And so obviously it's good to hear from the person who's going to be handling all of this, right? Like this is the person who Tyler Heaps is hooking up. These are the bad boys of SDFs of the MLS, the new blood, the new generation. This is what Coach Mikey Varas had to say.
Almost working backwards when you're coming up with a build of a squad for the first time ever. So what is it like now imagining the formation that you're going to go ahead and have and just a scheme that Mikey Varas will implement along with Right to Dream with the players that are incoming? What are those just mental gymnastics with you like?
Yeah, it's really interesting because we have our style of play, but then we have signings, right? And so, for example, we sign Irving, and Irving's going to be a big player for us. So then we start thinking, what type of player profiles do we want to surround Irving with? We have Patty. What kind of center back pairing do we want with Patty? What kind of left back do we want playing next to Patty? All of these things get taken into account because at the end of the day, we'll have our style of play, our principles, but the most important thing is that we have the right relational dynamics on the field, the right skill sets working together in a certain way that we're able to create competitive advantages from their talents.
So I was asking Tyler a little bit, just some of the intangibles, because both of you come from this analytic point of view where you really break down a player and put them in the right positions. But what are those intangibles for Mikey Varas that you need to see in a player that's going to be key in order to make this team succeed?
Yeah, very few players will have everything, right? But what do we look for? We look for a winner mindset. We look for experience in the league. We look for leadership qualities. All of them have to be good at training, and then they have to have a special quality. When we look at a player, we start from what's their special quality. If they have a special quality, boom, we know how they can fit in the big scheme of things.
And so what is this first day for you kind of coming in, right? You're going to meet all the players when training starts, when preseason starts. What is that first day kind of outlook for you when you speak to these players in this group of what's being built here?
Yeah, we set the tone from a group perspective, but long before we get into the building together, I will have had multiple conversations with every single player that we've signed. I will already laid the groundwork of building a relationship with them. So I've already done that with our currently signed players. And then what we'll do is now we start gearing towards the collective, moving from me to we and making sure that we all know what our responsibility is, setting the tone for the first few days in preseason.
And then if I could switch to Spanish real quick, para una pregunta en español, la gente...
I'm gonna let you decide, guys. Do we let the Spanish question ride?
Pues hay que
No.
we have to
Yes,
flip
play it so we
people
can see Darnay how
Yeah.
he switches to Telemundo.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Play it.
gente latina le encanta pues ver el fútbol,
Yeah.
pero que se gane.
Oh, what a move. What a move. Like, I gotta go back for that.
If I could switch to Spanish real quick, para una pregunta en español, la gente latina le encanta pues ver el fútbol, pero que se gane. ¿Qué tipo de equipo estás haciendo ahorita con los jugadores que vienen y qué se espera la gente de San Diego con esta expectativa?
Ya, bueno, nosotros jugamos este deporte para ganar, primero y principal. Entonces, estamos acá para ganar. Ahora, el cómo ganamos y el con quién ganamos es importante para nosotros. Entonces, nosotros queremos ganar con un cierto tipo de estilo. Queremos llegar, cuando la gente llega al estadio, se emocionan con el fútbol que ven. Tiene que ver un fútbol creativo, un fútbol agresivo. Ahora, nosotros pensamos, cuando hay creatividad, hay calidad y hay agresividad e intensidad, las probabilidades de ganar van subiendo. Entonces, lo que nosotros estamos buscando son jugadores que tienen esa mentalidad ganadora, pero que también tienen una calidad que cuando tenemos la pelota podemos proponer algo que vale la pena, digamos.
Y la verticalidad que tienes ahorita con estos jugadores que ya están en el equipo se presenta para algo diferente para la MLS. ¿Qué es lo que le puede decir a la gente de estos jugadores que vienen, que pueden esperar y cómo van a jugar?
Nosotros vamos a jugar, con convicción con la pelota, que significa una posesión dinámico, con mucha movilidad en el equipo, que no tiene miedo de jugar por adentro, pero cuando esos espacios se cierran, estamos listos para tomar ventaja por afuera, pero lo que queremos hacer es jugar por adentro para liberar espacios para los jugadores creativos en la última línea, para después explotar para gol.
En español e inglés, you saw a Galaxy.
Yeah, the most important question here is like, you're facing Galaxy. What's coming up? By the way,
La cara, güey, no mames.
By the
Where'd
way-
you pause?
okay, there we go. Let them blink those dashing blue eyes. If you are listening to this and you're like, excuse me, what is Coach saying? Go and check out the video on YouTube.
It's
on
got
Sunday Punto
captions
Football.
made by Chiva.
Captions. Thank you for making
Chiva.
the captions, Chiba. We were muted and you
He's in Lorenzo
you renegated,
See,
reneged.
Lorenzo Insigne is also a right wing, right?
Oh,
Oh,
Nah, he has a fat fucking contract. I don't think he's worth it.
They're making
Hasn't really panned out for Toronto,
they're
right?
saving a
So
lot of money.
Champions, you're going to face, that's your first test. ¿Qué es lo que te emociona de ver a un Galaxy enfrentar a un San Diego FC?
No, bueno, yo me emocioné porque yo quiero empezar contra los campeones. Entonces veo que Galaxy gana el campeón y yo digo, bueno, eso es un perfecto primera página para nuestra historia. Y nosotros vamos a hacer todo lo posible en la pretemporada para llegar muy bien en ese partido, respetando que es un equipazo también allá, que está bien dirigido y nosotros queremos jugar contra los mejores. Entonces esto para mí es perfecto.
I got one last one. Do you have any prior reports with any of the players that you guys are
It is perfect time for San Diego FC to meet the MLS champions, MLS Cup champions, LA Galaxy, coming up here in the finale of.
Lineup predictions.
We're gonna make the drive up, right?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna stay. I don't know if we can carpool. I think I'm gonna be staying with my mom that week.
my bad.
My mom's
okay.
birthday that weekend, so I'm gonna go
Hey.
hang out,
Happy birthday!
go to the game, come back down. Yeah.
Hey, if you ever want to spend the night with my brother, he lives in Oceanside right now before a soccer's game.
Oh, you're looking at me?
Yeah, like I'm just saying.
Yeah,
you
I
guys
mean,
can stay
trip.
at my mom's house. I think she'd let you guys be there. It's like basically the same distance from Carson to where she lives to San Diego, but
I like that.
I'm
No.
okay, thank you.
okay.
We're making
my
it.
brother in Oceanside. Thanks.
We're making it happen here on San Diego Punto Football. Trying to get everybody the best coverage of soccer in San Diego, unquestionably.
Yeah, man. Like it was a
Um,
big week for San Diego FC. I
yeah.
mean, is there anything else that we may have missed for San Diego FC? I think we touched on all the new players. I mean, we can dive in on Chucky Lozano and his play style, but right now
Well, we've
he's
done
just
that.
not playing right now. He's still injured at the moment. So, man, they better fix that Snapdragon grass because I swear if Chucky Lozano gets injured on the first day at Snapdragon and tears his ACL or something because of that crappy grass, whew,
That'd be
Man.
just most
it would be hilarious in a way.
hilarious. The content that we would get from that, I think, would
Wow.
just be
No, the
Uh,
content that we would not
I
get
just-
because Chucky Lozano would not be available at all.
But
Well,
the
it's a
story
high, it's a high
behind
spike.
the story behind saying like that was, I think, the most
Oh, Lozano
thing-
is back.
the
My
most
bad.
impressions
Yeah,
I've
it
ever
is.
got was just when I said like the waiver embarrassment for